When people are talking about plateaus, the most important plateau they're talking about is weight loss. So there are other plateaus you could hit. You could hit plateaus in your ability to be, vegan or more whole natural food or something. But most of the time when we get this question, it's about my weight has hit a plateau. It's important for you to understand that the fat content on your body is a function of three variables. Those variables are your individual differences in genetics, your exercise level, and the calorie density of the diet that you're eating. So the calorie density of anybody that's trying to sort of debate which of these things is the most important is losing the thread of the truth. The truth is that it depends upon what your genes look like, depends upon what your diet looks like, depends upon what your exercise looks like. They are all three variables. Within you, only two are variable because your genetic code is fixed. So you have to look at yourself. In other words, in the population, it's variable. There are slender people and very heavy people and a bunch of people in the middle. So the genes vary, but inside of you, the genes do not vary. The genes are fixed. So for you, there are only two variables, and those two variables are your exercise level and the calorie density of your diet. The most important between those two will be the calorie density of your diet. That's because the exercise level, you're not designed to get fat when you don't exercise. Okay, and you're not designed to get thin when you exercise. Exercise is something that is fundamentally independent of body composition. That it's not meant to be related to body composition. It turns out at the extremes, if you do not exercise at all, some people are more likely to carry extra weight. Not everybody. Okay, but in principle, exercise level does not change body composition. Unless, for example, if you're doing very heavy weight-bearing things, then your muscles will grow. But that will be constrained by the genetic code. So exercise level is not generally associated with body composition in animals for the reason that when you exercise more, you just need to eat more to make up for it. Okay, so the body doesn't want you to change your body composition. It wants you to be at a very healthy homeostasis. So, however, it's also true that some people, if they don't really exercise hardly at all, it makes them easier to put on extra weight. So exercise is an important thing, and Jack talks about this in the McDougall program. You want to have moderate daily exercise. We don't need to make a career out of it. The big variable by far, the reason why people have extraordinary variance in the fat storage that they have is because of the calorie density of their diet. So you can imagine a diet that you're eating massive amounts of fat and sugar that was super high calorie density. You could imagine that most people are going to get reasonably fat. You can also imagine a diet where everybody's eating nothing other than lettuce and rice. And you can imagine that even the lady that is 200 pounds overweight right now, if all she ate was lettuce and rice for the next year, trust me, she would get very thin. So clearly we can see that calorie density is the major lever of this problem. So if you've hit a plateau, your genes haven't changed. Your exercise level may need to be increased, but maybe it's fine and that's not the real issue. Undoubtedly, the most fundamental issue is that you have reached a consistency with respect to your calorie density, which is fine. It just may be that you've gone from, we've had many people in the McDougall program. We'll have some lady that comes in at 5'5" and she's 200 pounds, and she'll do the McDougall program as best she knows. And 8 months later, she's 155, but she's frustrated because she feels like she ought to be 135. And she, quote, hits a plateau. Well, what does that mean? What that means is that 155 is the natural biological equilibrium between her genetics, her exercise level, and the calorie density of the diet that she's eating. Now, she can't change her genetics, so there's two things that we could change. The first thing we could change is exercise level, and I have to tell you, very often when people call me, they're not exercising, and they have gone from 200 to 155, and they ought to be 130 or 135, and they're not exercising at all, and I'm like, well, Do you think your Stone Age ancestors didn't exercise every day? Of course they did. Okay. They didn't exercise half an hour 3 times a week. They were doing moderate level exercise all day long. So it's reasonable for us to have a reasonable amount of exercise that we're doing that might look like 30 or 45 minutes every day of moderate level of intensity. So sometimes when that happens, mysteriously the equilibrium breaks and the person starts losing weight again, slowly, but they do. The second factor, though, maybe it's not an exercise, effectively an exercise deficiency, maybe the calorie density is a little bit high. And so very often we'll find that there's a little bit of slippage, there's a little bit of quote cheating. They don't know, they feel like they're being completely reasonable, and they are if you want to be 155. But if you want to be 135, we might have to change that. And so the reason you've hit a plateau is that your behavior has hit an equilibrium. Your exercise and your calorie density factors are actually at an equilibrium, and your body has reached that equilibrium naturally due to its genetics. So what it takes for you to be 135 pounds may be different than someone with slightly different genetics, even though maybe you both started at 200. Okay, so plateaus are the nature of a biological equilibrium between those three variables. If we need to shift off of a plateau, we got to make some changes, and that's how we do it.